easy to watch back anyway, won't it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just wait for it to say it started recording. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I'll share my screen again, and
Okay.
I'll go through. But as I say, still feel free to, interact properly throughout. So general overview then of Makaton, summarized up by these bullet points. So it's more than just the signing. It's about the way that we think about communication. It's an entire unique language program, and the point of it is to develop verbal communication. That's sort of the ultimate goal. We use lots of other strategies within that, because children and young adults might not get to that verbal stage, but the whole point of it and all of the research around it shows that it does support the development of those kind of more universal, the more universal communication of verbal language. So it uses symbols. So here's an example of a few of the symbols, and we'll see some more in the next few slides. Signs, and where it differs from a specific sign language, which is a language in its own right, so BSL, British Sign Language. British Sign Language was created for the deaf community, so of course you don't speak when you're signing using BSL, but with Makaton you are talking as you're signing, and it's really important that you're doing both, because the sign is there, as I say, to support the development of the understanding of verbal communication. So the sign is the kind of concrete, the visual concrete reference for the words that we're using. Generally, communication will be kind of auditory, where we're listening to the words, and visual, where we're taking in people's body language, their facial expressions and all of that. It's much easier for us to process information visually. So that's where the signs and the symbols come in, because we're shifting that communication and those keywords from being auditory to visual cues. So a symbol is great because you can, cut a stop symbol here, or a look, or iPad, and that's great because you can literally give that to a young person with communication difficulties, and they've got that to kind of spend a long time processing. A sign as well. So that's a word. So if I'm saying book, I've said it, it's gone. If you've missed it, you've missed it. Whereas if I'm signing, I can hold that sign. So book, and I can hold it longer to process it. And as I say, you're processing it through the visual systems rather than the auditory systems, which is easier to process. And then the other key aspect of it, so we've got symbols, signs, is our speech as well. So we have to we have to think about the words that we're using, the pace that we're speaking at, how close we put words together, how we're chunking our information. We have to change all of that to make sure we're matching the levels of communication of a young person that we're communicating with.
Okay.
So Makaton, it supports the development of the essential communication skills such as attention and listening, comprehension, memory, recall, organization, language and expression. And as I say, all of the research shows that then is steps to be able to develop those verbal communication skills. Not everyone will get there, but it's those kind of steps on the journey towards it. So being able to communicate is one of the most important skills that we need in life. It's a human right. Almost everything that we do involves communication. So from learning in school, accessing food and drink, sorting problems, making friends, having fun. It's very easy when you're thinking about communication support to think about actual just functional skills. So how can I help my young person to tell me that they're thirsty, to tell me that they're hungry, to make a choice? Like, that's really important. But also, there is a real importance of having a chat and just using communication to play and be social. And that's something that, I really want to kind of make it a change to people's understanding. It's not just about absorbing vocabulary and knowing a lot of different signs. It's about how can you actually use the signs that you've got to enable that play and that chat. Because, you know, the way that we've all learnt language is through play, through action songs, through mirroring language between, you know, parents and child. You know, the acquisition of language is a really playful approach, and we mustn't lose that when we're using Makaton or another system to support communication.
Okay.
So as I said before, Makaton signs are used with speech, and it's used in spoken word order. So with British Sign Language, as I say, it's a language in its own right. So the grammatical structure, the order that we use the words differ. So instead of saying, as we would in spoken English, I'm going to school, you might say, I'm just using Makaton signs here, but you would say school, I go, in BSL, but of course you wouldn't be speaking.
Okay.
But Makaton, because the ultimate end goal is to help that understanding of verbal communication, we do follow the spoken word order. So you would say, I go to school.
Okay.
And we also, with BSL, you would sign absolutely everything, because there's no other, you know, you're not supporting it with spoken word. But with Makaton, you're just using keywords. And young people with communication difficulties will have different levels of how many keywords they can process at once. So with the I go to school, you could just do I go to school, and you're just signing I and school. Or at a one keyword level, you could just say I go to school, because actually within the context, and you're talking about school, only one of you is going to school. You know, the only thing there that is a keyword needed to be understood is where we're going. Is it the shop or is it to school? So you're thinking about how I don't want to overload this young person with information, so I'm just keeping the language at their level and just using those keywords. What are the key bits of information that they need to understand? Using symbols with people who have limited speech. Symbols are a great way for some of our other young people to communicate. So they can either point to symbols, they can exchange symbols. So it's called picture exchange communication, or PECS. And generally we would use that for children who don't yet understand that initiation of an interaction, that they haven't quite learned that communication is two-way. Often it's to do with their kind of theory of mind, and that just because they're feeling hungry, they don't understand that you automatically know that they're feeling hungry, that we have different feelings as human beings, you know. So we'll use that exchange of symbols as a kind of starting point for developing that understanding of initiation. We will have some young people who prefer the use of symbols over signing, or who prefer just using that kind of keyword model. You know, you can take whatever the student is strongest in, and that's their method of communication. What we're mirroring back is the complete language program, because although they're maybe not expressing themselves using sign, they might still be it might be helping them to process information, because of course, you know, we're again giving them more information in that visual field. So we very much personalize the approach. And what you'd be looking at, you know, does my child, do they use kind of natural gesture quite a lot, in which case they're more likely to kind of pick up keyword signing, or, you know, do they have difficulty with eye contact, in which case, you know, you obviously have to make eye contact to have those kind of communication and interaction and see those signs. But if they're actually they find that kind of intense interaction quite difficult, they'll turn away. That's when you can give them more time to process and use the symbols to support. Okay, so now we can actually move on to learning some signs and symbols. So hang on, let me just pop out of this. Has anyone else joined us, Sander, or is it just us still?
No, I saw one more.
Okay, somebody else has joined us. Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry, all I can see is my screen.
Okay.
We'll carry on. But whoever else has joined, we've got quite an intimate session. So if you do want to kind of chip in or ask any questions, I will be coming out of the presentation in a minute because I'm going to be showing you some signs. So I need to
Yeah.
as well.
Okay. Thank you.
But hello. Okay, so we've decided to separate these into different scenarios that will be useful in the home context. So the Makaton vocabulary is very broad. There's a core vocabulary, and then there's fringe vocabulary. So there's a huge number of things that you can cover. But as I've said, just overwhelming you with vocabulary isn't that helpful, because we still have to teach these symbols and these concepts, these signs to your young people, and they might not have that broader vocabulary themselves. It's about having a useful vocabulary that you feel confident in using. So the scenarios that we're going to be covering are people, meal times, bedtime, and then being out and about. Okay. If any of you, if there's anything else that you want me to show you as well, I'm more than happy. Okay, so here are our symbols. We'll just have a quick look at the symbols first, and then I'll come out of the presentation because I'll need to see you guys. And we'll go over the signing. Okay, but I just want to talk about some of the kind of concepts that we use in the symbol set with Makaton. So you can see here it's quite an old system. So it was developed in the 70s. So you've got very gender stereotyped images, but to be honest, that you would generally see this sort of iconography, on toilet doors and that kind of thing anyway. So having that explicit difference is helpful for people with communication difficulties. But it is recognised that it is very stereotypical that females wear skirts, men wear trousers. But hey, that's Makaton. That was the 70s. Now, so you can see the clear difference between sort of gender here, and then the top row of symbols have got a circle around. Generally, if you see a person with a circle, that means that they are part of your family. That's the kind of importance of that circle. If you saw like a double circle, so if this mummy had another circle around it, that would signal your grandmother, for example. Okay. Then these ones down here, they don't have the circle. So, the only difference between daddy and man is that circle.
It's a circle.
Generic sign for man, but the circle here means it's a significant, important man in my family. And this is my daddy or dad or father, whatever you want to use. Okay, I'm going to come out of the presentation, the screen sharing now, so that I can see you guys.
Yeah.
Hello, Ella.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going? Just so you know, I'm recording as well, mainly because it was just me and Sandar at the start. I don't necessarily have to share this with more widely than with us, but we decided we will record it anyway, even if it's useful for you guys just to recap. Just so you know, we are recording. Okay, so let's go over these signs. I need to remember. I'm just going to get them up on my phone as well.
I think my connection is not very good.
Oh no.
Oh no, I see that your picture's frozen.
I've frozen, have I?
Oh yeah.
I'm waving now. Is it showing you me waving?
Oh no.
Oh, I'll stop the recording because that might be slowing things down.